The rain hadn't stopped for hours. The city of lights, usually glittering and loud, was now drenched, its colors blurred into a grayscale reflection on the soaked streets. The night was cold, but not as cold as Daniel Carter's heart felt lately. He was the kind of man people admired from afar, CEO of a rising tech company, the kind of person whose name appeared in magazines next to headlines about success, innovation, and ambition. But beneath the tailored suits and confident smile, Daniel carried something else, a loneliness that money couldn't fill. It had been exactly a year since his younger sister, Mia, went missing. No one ever found her. The police called it a case gone cold, another unsolved mystery in a city that thrived on forgetting. But Daniel never forgot. Every missing poster he saw, every frightened face on the street, brought her back to him. That's why he noticed her. It was just past midnight when Daniel's black Chevrolet Colorado pulled up near the old train station. The wipers squeaked across the windshield as the rain drummed relentlessly. He was about to drive home after a long meeting when he saw a figure standing under a flickering streetlight. A young woman, maybe in her mid-20s, drenched, clutching a small backpack to her chest as if it were her life. Her hair was soaked, sticking to her pale face. But what caught him were her eyes. Wide, trembling, darting around like she was being hunted. He wasn't supposed to care. Not anymore. But something inside him refused to drive away. Daniel parked his truck a few feet away and watched her through the rain. She looked around again, then stepped closer to the shadows. He could see her trying to disappear, but failing, because fear like that always glows in the dark. He opened the door and stepped out. The cold wind hit him instantly. "Hey," he called out over the sound of rain. She froze. "It's late. Are you okay?" he asked, his tone gentle but firm. Her eyes met his for a second, just a second, and he felt something twist inside him. There was desperation there. And exhaustion. But she didn't reply. She turned her face away, gripping the bag tighter. Daniel took a careful step closer. "I'm not here to bother you. You look like you need help." "No," she said quickly. Her voice was shaky but strong. "Please. I'm fine." Her lips said fine. Her eyes screamed help me. And he couldn't ignore that. "Look," Daniel sighed, glancing around. The streets were nearly empty. "There's a cafe 2 blocks from here. It's warm, safe. I can take you there. You don't have to talk. Just get out of the rain." She shook her head. "No. Someone might see me." That sentence, "someone might see me," wasn't normal. It wasn't about embarrassment. It was about danger. Daniel's instincts sharpened. "Are you running from someone?" Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't answer. That was answer enough. Before he could ask more, headlights appeared down the street, fast, cutting through the rain. A black SUV slowed near the curb, its windows tinted. The woman's face went pale as snow. She took a step back, trembling. "Please," she whispered, "don't let them see me." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Get in," he said, opening the passenger door. She hesitated only for a moment, then ran and jumped inside. Daniel started the engine, his pulse racing. The SUV rolled closer, and for a brief second, he saw 2 silhouettes inside, scanning the street. Whoever they weren't just random passers-by. He drove off, tires splashing water across the road. The woman stayed silent, hugging her bag as if it were oxygen. After a few minutes, when the SUV's lights disappeared behind them, Daniel finally spoke. "You can relax now. They're gone." Her breathing was uneven. "Thank you," she murmured. "You shouldn't have helped me." "Too late for that," Daniel said, glancing at her. "Want to tell me what's going on?" She hesitated, staring out the window. "You don't want to know. It's dangerous." "I deal with danger every day," he said with a faint smirk, trying to lighten the tension. "My company runs cybersecurity for half the city. I'm used to cleaning up other people's messes." That earned a tiny, broken smile. "This isn't a mess you can clean with code." Her words hung heavy. He parked near his office building, a sleek glass tower that looked almost too bright for the hour. Inside, the lobby lights reflected off the marble floor. "We'll go upstairs," he said. "You can dry off, maybe have coffee. No one will bother you." She hesitated again, then followed him. As they stepped inside the empty building, Daniel realized how strange this was, bringing a stranger into his world, but something told him it was the right thing. Inside his penthouse office, she finally dropped the backpack onto the couch. Her hands trembled as she rubbed warmth back into her fingers. "Name?" Daniel asked softly. She looked at him for a long moment, like debating whether to lie. Then, finally, "Elena." "Okay, Elena." He poured 2 cups of coffee and handed her one. "Want to tell me why 2 men in an SUV were tailing you?" Her eyes flickered to his, then down to the cup. "I worked for someone," she whispered. "Someone powerful. I found out something I wasn't supposed to. I ran. Daniel leaned forward. Who? She shook her head quickly. I can't. If I say his name, it's over. The fear in her voice was real. Not drama. Not paranoia. Real. All right, Daniel said slowly. Then don't tell me. But you're safe here. For a long while, silence filled the room. The rain outside softened to a steady rhythm. Elena finally sat back, eyes distant. You shouldn't have stopped for me. People who get involved with me don't stay safe for long. Daniel looked out the window at the skyline, his reflection dim against the glass. You sound like my sister. Her eyes lifted. Your sister? He nodded. She disappeared last year. No one knows what happened. Everyone told me to move on. But I couldn't. I see her in every scared face I pass on the street. Maybe that's why I stopped. Elena stared at him, her eyes softening. I'm sorry. He forced a small smile. Don't be. Just promise me you'll stay till morning. We'll figure something out then. But morning never brings peace to those running from shadows. At 3:12 a.m., Daniel woke to the sound of glass shattering. His instincts kicked in. He reached for the drawer beside his desk, grabbing the small security baton he kept there. The lights in the corridor flickered. Elena's voice called softly, Daniel? He rushed out, and froze. The office door was half open. The backpack she had clutched so desperately was gone. So was she. But that wasn't all. Written on the window, in fogged condensation, were 4 words. They found me. Run. And from somewhere far below the building, an engine roared, the sound of that same black SUV. Daniel's heart pounded. He didn't even know her real story. But one thing he knew for sure, this wasn't just her fight anymore. He grabbed his coat, glanced once at the message on the glass, and muttered, You helped the wrong girl, Elena, or maybe the right one. Then he ran out into the storm again. The city hadn't slept. Not really. It just hid its crimes under neon lights and noise. By dawn, the rain had stopped, but Daniel's heart hadn't. He drove the Chevrolet Colorado through the slick streets, scanning every alley, every side road that might lead to her. The message she left, they found me. Run. Was still haunting his thoughts. Who were they? And what did she mean by a found? He replayed every detail in his head, the fear in her voice, the black SUV, her trembling hands clutching that old backpack like a secret vault. It wasn't just a bag. It was something else. Evidence, maybe. Or something people were willing to kill for. Daniel had seen enough of the corporate underworld to recognize that fear. He'd built a business from scratch, fought competitors who'd do anything to win, but this was darker. Personal. As he turned into an abandoned industrial block, his phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Daniel Carter. A low, cold voice replied. You picked up a girl last night. That was a mistake. Daniel's grip tightened on the wheel. Who is this? Someone giving you a chance to stay alive. Walk away, Mr. Carter. Forget her. Daniel exhaled slowly. I don't forget people easily. There was silence. Then the line went dead. He stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. He wasn't sure if this was courage or stupidity, but he'd made his choice the moment he saw fear in Elena's eyes. He couldn't ignore it then. He wouldn't now. He parked near the river docks, the kind of place people vanished without questions. Something told him she'd come here. The night before, when she'd mentioned someone powerful, he'd caught the tiniest tremor in her voice when she glanced east, toward this very part of town. He got out, the air heavy with salt and rust. Then he saw it, the same black SUV, parked near an old warehouse. Its windows were tinted, but the engine was still warm. Daniel's instinct screamed danger. He moved cautiously, sticking to shadows. The warehouse door was cracked open, light leaking through. Inside, voices. He crept closer. Where is it, Elena? One man barked. Her voice trembled. I told you, I don't have it anymore. Don't lie to me. A slap echoed. Daniel's blood boiled. He peered through the gap. 2 men in dark suits towered over her, her face bruised, one lip bleeding. She was tied to a chair, the backpack open beside her. Papers scattered across the floor. Daniel's eyes flicked over them, documents with the logo of Arcton Industries. He knew that name. A massive corporation with government contracts. Ruthless. Connected. His own company had once competed against them for a security deal. They were untouchable. And now, apparently, hunting a terrified woman. He stepped inside silently, picking up a metal pipe from the floor. The taller man turned slightly, and Daniel struck, hard. The sound of metal against bone echoed through the room. The other man spun, pulling out a gun, but Daniel ducked behind a stack of crates. Elena screamed. Daniel. Stay down, he shouted. The gun went off, a bullet sparking against the wall. Daniel charged before the man could reload, slamming him against a beam. The gun clattered to the floor. He kicked it away, grabbed the man's collar, and drove a fist into his jaw. When it was over, both men were on the ground, unconscious but alive. Daniel rushed to Elena, cutting the ropes with a jagged piece of metal. "You came back," she whispered, tears mixing with blood. "I don't leave people behind," he said softly. "Especially not someone who's scared." Her hands shook. "You shouldn't have followed me. You don't understand what this is." "Then make me understand." She hesitated, glancing at the scattered papers. "Arcton, they're not who they say they are. They've been using their software to spy on private citizens, journalists, activists. I found out while working as a data analyst for them. I tried to expose it, but they caught me. I copied everything onto a drive and ran." Daniel frowned. "The drive's in the bag?" She shook her head. "Not anymore. I hid it before they found me." "Where?" She looked up, eyes steady now. "Somewhere they'd never look." Before Daniel could ask, she stumbled slightly. He caught her arm. "You're hurt." "I'll live," she whispered. "But if they find that drive, they'll destroy every trace of it, and anyone who helped me." Daniel knew what he had to do. "Then we get it before they do." They drove across the waking city, the sun slowly rising over glass towers. Elena gave directions in short, breathless phrases, glancing behind them every few minutes. When they finally stopped, it was in front of an old public library on the city's north side. Inside, the librarian, a kind, elderly woman, nodded at Elena as if she knew her. "Back so soon, dear?" Elena smiled weakly. "I left something in the archives." They went downstairs, into the dim storage area lined with old books and dust-covered cabinets. Elena moved to a corner shelf and pulled out a hollowed-out dictionary. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a small USB drive. She handed it to Daniel. "This has everything. Files, emails, video logs. Enough to take them down." He stared at it. "If this gets out, Arcton's done. But so are you." She nodded slowly. "I've been running long enough. Maybe it's time to stop." Before he could respond, the faint echo of footsteps reached them. Then another. "They found us," Daniel muttered. He shoved the drive into his pocket, grabbed her hand, and pulled her toward the emergency exit. They burst into the alley as black SUVs screeched around the corner. "Go!" he shouted, pushing her ahead. Bullets shattered glass behind them. Daniel ducked, shielding her as they ran through narrow streets. His lungs burned, his heart thundered. He hadn't felt alive like this in years. They dove into a side street, sliding behind a dumpster as tires screeched to a stop nearby. Elena looked at him, panic in her eyes. "We can't outrun them." "Maybe not," Daniel said, catching his breath. "But we can outsmart them." He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "I'm sending the data to every journalist, news outlet, and legal contact I've got. If they want to bury the truth, they'll have to bury the whole internet." She stared at him. "You'd risk your company for me?" He smiled faintly. "For justice. And for my sister." Her brow furrowed. "Your sister?" He nodded. The last case she covered before she disappeared was about Arcton Industries. Elena's eyes widened. "Daniel. I think I saw her name in the files." For a moment, everything stopped. The noise, the fear, the running. "She was investigating them," Elena continued. "Your sister didn't vanish. They silenced her." Daniel's chest tightened, pain and rage colliding. "Then this ends now." He hit send. Data packets zipped through cyberspace, dozens of encrypted files blasting across networks, unstoppable now. Sirens wailed in the distance. The SUVs screeched again, but before they could close in, the sky above erupted in the sound of police choppers. Daniel turned to Elena. "It's over." She looked up, tears streaming. "You did it." "No," he said softly. "We did." Hours later, the world changed. News headlines screamed. Tech giant exposed in massive surveillance scandal. Whistleblower saves thousands from corporate espionage. Arcton executives were arrested. Their empire crumbled. Daniel stood by the hospital window where Elena rested. Her injuries were healing, but the scars of fear ran deeper. When she opened her eyes and smiled faintly at him, he felt something in his chest, peace, maybe for the first time in years. "I'm sorry about your sister," she whispered. He nodded. "She didn't die for nothing. You made sure of that." Elena's gaze softened. "You didn't have to help me, Daniel." He smiled faintly. "You didn't ask. But I couldn't ignore the fear in your eyes." The city outside shimmered in sunlight. Somewhere between loss and redemption, two strangers had found courage again. As Daniel walked out of the room, he glanced back once more, knowing that sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can rewrite the ending of someone's story. And if you believe that one act of courage can change a life, hit that subscribe button. Because every story we tell here reminds us, kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. Stay with us for more powerful tales that touch your heart and light up your soul.